朋友们浏览微博的时候，在孤烟木禅的微博上看到一个非常有深度的采访，是中国记者和西方记者的同台对话。在看完之后，我有5个感想，所以本期呢，我先把我的感想给大家汇报一下，用2-3分钟，然后让大家看一看这个采访。我认为可能很多观众都会产生共鸣。看完这一个采访之后，我的第一个感想就是我们中国在任何时候都要保持自由和改革开放，这是任何时候都不能够去走回闭关锁国的道路，任何时候都不行。你有1万种理由，我们可以进行改良，但这个道路不能被堵死。我的第二个想法就是咱中国在任何时候都要注重教育，一定要多读书。中华民族有一个优点，那是全世界范围之内为数不多的注重教育的国家。其实有很多西方国家根本不注重教育，我坚决反对搞什么所谓的快乐教育。学习本身是一个苦差事，非常辛苦。要快乐，你就不可能学习的非常好。当一个国家大量的国民教育程度非常有限的时候，这个国家是没有希望的。所以咱们一定要注重教育，任何时候都不能丢弃。第三，中国永远不要去随意的打击和侵略任何其他国家。为什么呀？因为这会使中国的综合国力受到严重削弱。战争就是吞金兽，尤其是在超出国力范围之外进行军事行动，会加速国家的衰落和解体。美国如果不是因为这过去的20年当中打了几个非常稀里糊涂的仗，咱现在和美国之间的距离不会这么近。第4个观点就是咱并不强加中国人自己的价值观给其他任何国家。我是深刻感受到这个世界除中国之外，所有国家几乎都建立在宗教之上，而宗教那是几十代、几百年、上千年形成的根深蒂固的思想，你想改变谈何容易？那已经真的刻进基因里面去了，那是一个深不见底的泥潭。如果你想做这个事情，一定吃力不讨好。第5个观点，那就是我们中国对待挑衅者，要在时机成熟的时候做到虽远必诛。我们要永远相信武器的批判，它的效果和作用远远大于批判的武器。所以呢，我们需要非常优秀的外交官和很多的记者在全世界去传播中国的声音。但是我们的底色和我们的底气就是我们的武器，而且在关键时刻一定要用。
What is your impression? How is the West reacting to this rise of China and to its will to play, apparently, a new role on the political scene?
I have my worries. And the reason is the following. The West have been strong for the last 400 years, 500 years, since Renaissance. And China has been waning for the last 200-300 years. And it is never easy to accept a new player. And today the West is very ideological. In particular, sorry, Thomas, Germany. I talked to journalists from Süddeutsche, Frankfurter Gemeinde, and the French, wherever. No other journalists are as ideological as that of the German newspaper that I know. I never talked to Der Spiegel, Peter. Maybe you're better.
No, we're not at all.
But whatever it is, let me tell you this. I'll answer it this way. I was in Frankfurt. I was in Hamburg one time, and Angela Merkel was speaking. And 4 or 5 times in her speech, she said, shared value. Shared value. Helmut Schmidt was sitting on stage with her. I was sitting in the first few rows. I raised my hand to ask a question when it's Q&A time. Of course, they would not pick a Chinaman. So I was not picked. But let me tell you what my question was. And I told Helmut Schmidt later. I said, my question was, Chancellor Merkel, you keep using the word shared value. I live in China. Am I supposed to share your value? By saying so, now no one is suggesting that you should give up your value. By all means, keep your good value. But by saying so, you draw a line on the sand. I am on this side, you may be on the other side. If you don't share my value, you are not one of my own. Keep your value, but why say it? By saying it, you are dividing the world. Good
Later on, I think we will speak about the Chinese policy to impose values or to have a free discussion in Europe.
We never impose it outside of our border.
Yeah,
you
I
do.
don't know.
You do.
Yes.
The West do. Mm-hmm. Can you learn not to impose your value on other countries?
Mm-hmm. But perhaps there are values to share.
Ronnie, talking about values, imposing values, let's look at the role that the U.S. is currently playing, a country that you said is among the most self-righteous countries in world history. At the same time, what we see in Washington right now is a pullback from Washington's international responsibility as the leader of the free world. You spend a lot of time in the US yourself. You're engaged in a lot of think tank activities in the US. What is your sense? Where does Washington stand these days? And also, how is that stature perceived in Beijing, for that matter?
First of all, let's not blame Donald Trump for everything. He should be blamed for many things, but not everything. Isolationism in America did not start with Donald Trump. In fact, I asked the following question. All of you know the origin of the United States, 1776 and so forth. Was America founded on internationalization, or was it founded on isolationism? Think about it. What's Monroe Doctrine? Right? 1820-some. All those tells us that America from day one is an isolationism country, not an internationalism country. The fact that you and I live our whole life in the post-World War II era, where America was originally reluctantly pulled into the international scene, does not mean that America historically was an internationalism country. In fact, roughly only 1/3 of its history, particularly after dragged into the Second World War, is the United States, an internationalist. So for America to go back to isolationism should not surprise any of us. And no other country that I can think of can survive as an isolated country. The United States is the only one. Somebody said, oh, maybe Russia can. I said, no, Russia cannot. Russia may not need to import anything, but it needs to export gas, natural gas. So even Russia cannot be totally isolationist and survive. The only country that I can think of is the United States. 2 oceans on 2 sides, small Canada on the north, Mexico in the south, not a threat to Russia, to the United States economically or militarily. So America can easily go back to isolationism. And I do worry that America has that tendency always. And so let's not be too surprised if America moved toward isolationism. I don't like it. But what can I do? And I do fear that America, especially now with Trump in the White House, may be moving the country further in isolationism, which I don't think is necessarily good for the world.
And that means that China has to take on more responsibility, fill that vacuum.
Well, China never want to be number one because China always was number one for 3,000 years. Then the last 200 years become number nothing. A couple thousand British soldiers took over China. In Shanghai, where my mother grew up, in Shanghai, in the parks, there's a sign that says, no dogs and Chinese. This is in your home. What would you like, Britta? You go home, in your bedroom, there's a sign that says, no dogs and Britta. That's exactly what the colonialists did to China. And so, China has this terrible history of the last couple hundred years of under oppression by the West. 22,000 soldiers in 1900, 8 nations defeated the whole of China, from Europeans mostly, except the United States. So China is today just want to be back to the global scene as a responsible and respected member of the international community. How much responsibility you want them to take? It depends. So far, they are the most business-oriented country that I know. They try to keep their hand off all the politics and so forth. Middle East, they try to get out of it. They don't want to touch it, right? Do you want China to take more responsibility? If you do, then let me assure you, somebody will say, see, China is overextended itself, it exerting its influence around the world. So the Chinese say, to hell with it. No win situation, we just do what we want to do.
Those who are visiting China these days and even if they can't read Mandarin, they have to consider that there are a lot of books and written works on the end of the West. Would you subscribe to this theory? Are we already living in a kind of post-Western order?
Not at all. You cannot prevent somebody from being foolish, especially on the internet. You have foolish people in this country. China has tons of it, just that they have many times more people.
You wouldn't agree
on
that. We're not a system yet.
Well, Ronnie, if I may, since we're talking about, China's rise or China having risen to great power status, here's a question that I received from the audience, and let me read it to you. Given China's treatment of Uyghurs, Tibetans, and dissidents, do you sympathize with those who fear the rise of China?